The mark came at dawn. Nantanessa felt it before she saw it, the sudden silence of birds, the way the wind seemed to hold its breath. She stepped out of her wickiup and froze. Painted in red ochre on the stone near her camp was the sign every Apache feared, the death mark. Someone wanted her gone. She was no criminal, no traitor, only a woman who had refused to be silent. Nantanessa had spoken against the raiders who had begun selling their own people to bounty hunters. For that, they decided she was dangerous. By nightfall, they would come. She gathered what little she could carry and fled into the hills, her heart pounding with every step. The land was dry and cruel, but it was still kinder than men with hate in their eyes. By midday, her strength began to fail. That was when she collapsed near a split-rail fence on the edge of unfamiliar land. Ethan Cole had lived alone on his ranch for 11 years. The war had taken his brothers. The frontier had taken his patience. He trusted horses more than men and silence more than words. When he saw a woman lying near his fence, Apache, wounded, barely breathing, his first instinct was to ride past. Helping her would bring trouble. But when she opened her eyes, there was no threat in them. Only exhaustion, only fear. Ethan lifted her onto his horse and carried her home. When Nantanessa woke, she reached for a knife that wasn't there. Instead, she smelled coffee. Bread. Safety. You're on my land, Ethan said calmly. And no one dies here unless I say so. She tried to leave the next morning, but her leg betrayed her. Ethan said nothing, just tightened the bandage and set another plate on the table. Days passed. He learned her name. She learned his silence wasn't cruelty, it was grief. At night, she told him stories of the mountains, of her mother's songs. In the mornings, he taught her how to ride without pain. Then the riders came. 6 men, armed, angry. They claimed she was theirs. Ethan stepped onto his porch, rifle in hand, calm as stone. She's under my protection, he said. Turn around. They laughed. The first shot echoed across the valley. Ethan fought like a man with nothing left to lose. He knew the land, the rocks, the shadows. When the dust settled, 2 men lay wounded, and the rest fled. But Ethan knew they would return. So did Nantanessa. That night, she stood before him, strong despite the pain. This fight is not yours, she said. He shook his head. The moment I carried you in, it became mine. Together, they prepared. When the raiders returned, they found more than a rancher. They found a woman who refused to be erased and a man who refused to stand aside. The battle ended not in blood, but in truth. Evidence of the raiders' crimes was delivered to the authorities. Bounties reversed. Names exposed. The mark was lifted. Months later, spring painted the valley green. Nantanessa stayed, not as a fugitive, but as a free woman. She planted corn near the house. Ethan built a second chair on the porch. 2 wounded souls. 1 shared land. And a quiet legend spread across the frontier. That once, an Apache woman was marked for death.